Hi, and welcome to, or back to, my channel. I'm Kit, and today we're going to be lectured by a 21-year-old about how important marriage is. Before we get into it, I would like to thank everyone for clicking on this video, and I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons and channel members. Alright, let's get yelled at. For those of you lucky enough not to know, Brett Cooper is Ben Shapiro's latest protege. She hosts the comment section with Brett Cooper, which is produced by the Daily Wire. And as you can guess from the setup, they're trying to pass her off as a typical Gen Z streamer, totally not backed by a conservative media company. She's just a young woman live streaming from her bedroom. She got to over 1 million subscribers through hard work and dedication, not because she was offered a deal by a major media corporation. Anyway, a couple weeks ago, Brett posted, "Body counts are rising, marriage rates are falling," and I just couldn't help myself. I really needed to know what an unmarried 21-year-old had to say about this subject, and I'm sure you all will be as shocked as I was. Let's get into it.
This is one of the episodes where sometimes the news stories are so just like up in your face that it really doesn't take a lot of research and you're regurgitating stuff. But this one, it's just like, it's all the numbers are there, and it's like, you can't ignore this.
Actually, we can, because who someone is sleeping with and whether or not they're married is no one's business except their own.
All right, let's yell at some more women.
Women are so stupid. They don't even recognize when something is good for them when it's staring them right in the face. The numbers are right there.
We have all watched the Whatever podcast. We have all seen Fresh and Fit. You've at least seen clips of them if you haven't watched full episodes.
This stupid.
We've seen the TikToks with the horrifying, terrifying women discussing their body counts as some kind of badge of honor. We know that that's out there. That's just currently the world that we live in 2023. So it should not be surprising that women are having more premarital sex than ever before.
Wouldn't it also follow then that men are having more premarital sex? Or does it not matter if it's men?
But the actual numbers are shocking, and we're going to talk about that today. So thanks to an awesome article written by my friend Gina Florio over at Evie Magazine, I learned that per a 2016 report, the number of women with 10 plus premarital partners has more than doubled in 30 years. Now, I'm not a prude. I don't care if you are a virgin when you get married. It's not my life. It's not my prerogative. But ladies, 10 plus, that we can all agree that's a bit much.
I have an idea. If the thought of having 10 or more sexual partners makes you uneasy, simply don't. You do not have to sleep with 10 people. You don't have to sleep with even one if you don't want to. And you especially don't have to sit in front of your large audience and mock women because, let's be honest, they don't care about how many people men have slept with for having sex with more people than the powers that be deem appropriate. Disclaiming that, hey, it's none of my business, do what you want, means nothing when you go ahead with the episode anyway.
And if you don't think that's a bit much, we need to have a very serious conversation.
My email is in my profile.
But here's the report, Counterintuitive Trends in the Link Between Premarital Sex and Marital Stability. It's actually fascinating to read because they talk about the divorce rates. We're not going to talk about that today, but if you want to learn about it, read the report.
For the upteenth time, if you're going to reference a study, link to it.
In the 1970s, only 2% of women had more than 10 sexual partners. Then the sexual revolution took off, and those numbers just continued to increase. Fast forward to the 2010s, and 18% of women now have a body count more than 10. And guys, the kicker is, this survey, it came out in 2016, it only went up to 2013. Imagine what these numbers are now.
I did cut out the clip she used here, which was some man saying, "I don't like where this is going."
10 years later, when we see people my age saying that they've slept with 15 different guys, happily giving out that information on the Whatever podcast, and then being angry when men go, okay, you're not wife material because you're literally giving it away to everybody. Like, that's normal now.
I wouldn't say going on a podcast and talking about how many sexual partners you've had is normal now. But even if the majority of women have had more than 10 partners and see nothing wrong with it, so I get so tired of this fear-mongering, and it's so disheartening to look at the comments on this video. Waiting until marriage to have sex does not make you a better person than someone who did not wait. A lot more goes into whether or not someone is a good person than being a virgin until the wedding night. Also, you're not wife material because you're just giving it away, so marriage is based on sex? Nothing else is important when making a theoretically lifelong commitment?
It's not only just normal, but feminists run around saying that this is empowerment and that more women need to be doing this, that hookup culture is a good thing, when objectively we know that it harms women.
You heard it here, folks. Feminism hurts women. Conservatives are the ones that really care. BS aside, Brett unsurprisingly reveals herself to know nothing about feminism. Feminists are not running around encouraging women to sleep with as many men as possible to be empowered. Feminists say that women should not be judged by the sex they've had or not had.
And these trends are not new. Women have been lied to about hookup culture being empowering for years now.
There were a lot of articles about hookup culture when I was Brett's age, and I don't remember it ever being called empowering. In fact, it was adults wringing their hands about kids these days. So I'm going to need a source for that. Who is claiming hookup culture is empowering for women?
We have been lied to about marriage being oppressive and detrimental to your womanhood and your life and your career.
I'm going to need a citation for that one as well.
And we have been taught that our value is literally synonymous with our sex appeal, even though we're supposed to hate men and the patriarchy.
Patriarchy is the system we live in. It is not individual men. And that makes no sense. We're supposed to hate men, but also sleep with as many as possible for empowerment? Whoever wrote the script for Brett should be fired, though we have heard the exact same thing from Classically Abby.
That's all bullshit. I remember being in high school and being so turned off by the incredibly sexual and promiscuous behavior of all the girls around me that I started to act incredibly masculine and tomboyish, more than I really was.
So basically, Brett wasn't like the other girls.
Because I didn't see any alternatives. It got to the point that my mom literally, like, we were in the car, I was sitting there, I was dressed in all black and like my big boots, and I was like sitting like a dude, kind of like I am now. So obviously things really haven't changed, even though I do think I'm a little bit more feminine. But my mom turned to me and she was saying, like, you are acting like a man. You are so angry too, because you're rejecting these ideals of womanhood and what it means to be a girl in the modern age because you don't want to be that promiscuous. But that's not the only option. Like, you can be a feminine woman while not giving yourself away. You don't have to be basically on the path to becoming a lesbian or trans if we're in, 2023.
So it was be promiscuous or be a man? And she was on the path to becoming a lesbian because she was angry about her female classmates' promiscuity and she didn't want to be like them? I know teenagers tend to have black and white thinking, but does this make sense to anyone? I'm having some thoughts, but I don't want to speculate.
And then in college, I remember being weird for not using Tinder. They don't haze people in UCLA sororities, but I remember after I rushed, people thought it was so strange that I had never been on a dating app that I was told to do it, and that was going to be my, quote, hazing by my big and, all my friends there. I was one of the odd ones out for not engaging in hookup culture and getting off of the party bus alone rather than with my date. And, none of this is new.
No, it's not. I'm still teased about my lack of drinking and dating. It's just something people do. Some can take it too far, but overall, I don't think most people mean any harm by it, and it's not some deep, evil, insidious thing.
And millennials are really the generation that are going to suffer, and hopefully we can all turn this around before Gen Z does the same. And we've covered these numbers before, but by 2030, it's predicted that 45% of women will be unmarried and childless.
They really are clinging to that study, aren't they?
Why do you think that is?
Well, the amount of people who identify as religious in the US is falling, so I imagine that has something to do with it. And well, you really don't need to be married anymore. Sure, there are some benefits to it, but there's no great social stigma to living with a member of the opposite sex without being married anymore. There's no great shame for having a baby out of wedlock these days. Just my guesses, though.
Well, it's because we've been told that, men are trash and that our career is the only thing that matters and that marriage and children will inhibit that.
No one had to tell me anything. I saw my parents' marriage. I saw my aunt's marriages. And I decided I didn't want that for myself. And I doubt I'm the only one.
Which is unnatural. That is biologically unnatural for women. Look at this chart from the Wall Street Journal about values in America. This is scary. Percent of people who say these values are very important to them. Patriotism gone down, religion gone down. Having children, the whole chart is important, but let's look at that quadrant. Having children, it is a straight line down. No wonder women are sleeping around at these rates. No wonder they're not getting married. They don't value it. They don't care. We've been lied to about this.
My takeaway from this part is that Brett doesn't believe people can come to conclusions on their own. It's that they were told these things were important. It's not that anyone can believe that on their own, it's that someone else told us that, and we're so stupid, we just believe whatever we're told. And that is why Brett is here, telling us we're wrong and these things are important. And looking at that chart, that religion and patriotism are no longer as important won't break my heart. Kids are a personal thing. Community involvement is, in my opinion, important. And it strikes me as interesting that she has no comment for how, of all the things on that chart, only money has risen in importance. But I guess that would mean she'd have to speak about how capitalism infects every aspect of our lives, and as a conservative, she can't do that.
Here are other stats about it. Here are the marriage rates declining over time. It's just depressing. Like these days, women are caring more about self-love than actually getting married and having children. And like we joke about self-love, but it is important to take care of yourself. And women are not taking care of themselves these days. They are doing things that literally harm them when they could be using.
And here we have an ad break, which I'm cutting out. Very smooth transition though.
I mean, since 1970, marriage rates have declined 60%. While simultaneously, the numbers of women sleeping around have been skyrocketing.
Yeah, I don't think marriage rates have been declining because people aren't interested in sex.
And so then I was thinking, like, okay, well, I wonder what the impact has been on women's mental health. We talk about women's mental health a lot.
And the conclusion is always, women need to get married more for the sake of their mental health. I haven't watched the video in full yet, but I'm going to go ahead and place my bet now. $5.
And most of the current studies are connected to COVID-19 in women over the last couple of years and social media, but here's a report from 2011. Depression in women doubles since the 1970s as they try to have it all.
Why is it always a woman has a job, a spouse, and kids, she's trying to have it all? But if a man has a job, a spouse, and kids, that's just normal. Can someone please explain this to me?
Women are twice as likely to suffer from depression compared with 40 years ago because they are trying to juggle families and careers, researchers claim. Researchers who have studied the extent of mental health problems across Europe say that rates of depression in women have doubled since the 1970s. They found that women are most at risk from ages 16 to 42 when they tend to have children.
See, that doesn't surprise me because from the studies I've read and things I've heard, men, I'm sorry, I enjoy most of you, but men still aren't participating in childcare and housework as much as women, even when both are full-time employees, and I can see where it would depress a woman to work and still be in charge of the house. We still live in a world where men are asked if they're babysitting their own children and women are judged as bad mothers if they admit parenting isn't all sunshine and rainbows and sometimes they want a break. But conservatives' conclusions are different.
I mean, yes, maybe it's their careers or maybe it has something to do with women's liberation and modern feminism teaching them utter bullshit, which is often aligned with their girl boss career tactics.
Girl boss is not feminism. It's capitalism trying to pinkwash itself. I would like to know what girl boss career tactics are, though.
Here's more information. This is from 2018, addressing unmet needs in women's mental health. It is in this context that the Household Adult Psychiatric Morbidity Study reports rates of common mental disorder in women have been increasing steadily between 1993 and 2014 compared to stable rates with men since 2000. More women than ever are now presenting with common mental disorder. 25% of young women between the ages of 16 and 25 report symptoms of common mental disorder, mainly anxiety and depression. Rates of self-harm in women are higher than ever, again, especially in young women. And that was before COVID. And then after COVID, it spiked even more. And you guys know this, I'm far from being totally trad.
So what, she's half trad?
I would love to escape to a homestead and never speak to anybody ever again, but I do have a career, and I love my career. But I know that men and women complement each other in a really important way, and I'm excited to start a family because that is where I see true fulfillment and value.
Okay. I just want to let everyone know that you don't have to justify yourself. It's okay to want to marry and have kids.
Not climbing the corporate ladder and being single at 30 with a ton of plant babies because I spent my 20s sleeping around and hating the patriarchy.
Conservatives have this weird idea that if you're not married, you're sleeping around, and if you're sleeping around, you're hooking up, but no. You can be in a long-term relationship, you can be sleeping with friends, you can have a marriage ceremony without being legally married in the eyes of the law. There's a lot more options beyond one-night stands.
I promise you, that is not the path that you want. No matter how enticing the feminists make it out to be, the numbers do not lie.
Well, that was underwhelming. She didn't outright say it, which I guess is a nice change, but I think we're supposed to infer from this video that the rising rates of depression are because women aren't getting married like they used to, but they are having more premarital sex. That's always the road these conservatives want to take us down, and no. There's more to life than marriage, and life has changed a lot since the 1970s. It's interesting, too, that Brett is trying to draw a conclusion between depression and marriage rates, even though they were separate studies. And for that matter, she didn't delve into that marriage study she showed, which concludes with, "It won't be surprising to most readers that people with more premarital sex partners have higher divorce rates, broadly speaking. That said, this research brief paints a fairly complicated picture of the association between sex and marital stability that ultimately raises more questions than it answers." And why is it complicated? Well, as it turns out, yes, having one or no previous partners leads to lower divorce rates, which the researcher attributes to likely religious influence, and having 10 or more leads to higher rates, but having 3 to 9 former partners actually leads to lower divorce rates than 2 or 10. 10 or more leading to higher divorce rates is also a relatively new occurrence. So no, it's not that simple, and getting married for your mental health is a terrible idea. Spouses cannot cure depression, and that's a terrible thing to put on someone. I really don't like how conservatives attempt to misuse studies to steer women into doing what they want women to do. Women are people, not puppets to be controlled. I hope that paycheck is worth it, Brett, but you should still be ashamed of yourself. And there we have it. Classically Abby, but make it Gen Z. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.